Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Granholm, the bedrock of this nation's national defense strategy is deterrence. And we are going through a once-in-a-generation, perhaps once in 2 or 3 generations, modernization of our deterrent capability. Columbia submarine, B-21, ground-based strategic deterrent, returning to pit production, upgrading of warheads, and nuclear command and control. In your view, if we fail to do that, if we back off of that mission of upgrading those elements of our nuclear deterrent, does that diminish the deterrence that is affects the calculus of our adversaries?
Yes.
That's exactly the answer that I believe is also the case. Deterrence is in the mind of the adversary. And if they perceive that we have allowed our nuclear deterrent capability to degrade, that in itself, will it not diminish the effectiveness of deterrence?
Absolutely. As Secretary Austin has said, nuclear deterrence should be the #1 priority.
Yeah, the best conflict is the one that doesn't occur.
Exactly.
The best way to have that occasion is for our adversaries to understand that we're serious, and that part of that is committing the resources necessary to establish the capability of the deterrence. Turning a moment, and this is not strictly NNSA related, but it's certainly in this area, is the role of cyber. And the danger of cyber in our nuclear enterprise as well as across the government. CSER is one of the sub-agencies of the Department of Energy. I'd like your commitment that this is an agency that will be emphasized, supported, and there's some discussion about whether it should be an assistant secretary or a professional. But the important thing is that this, I believe, is one of the most important initiatives within the Department of Energy, and will you commit to your full and enthusiastic support of their mission?
Not only will I commit to the full and enthusiastic support, I agree with you 100% that it must be elevated. And elevated, in my mind, means that we have to make sure that it is, that we have professional staff. I want to make it a directorate that will have the ability to ensure that professionals are running it. It is an emergency response organization, and you need professionals who are running it regardless of administration. Unfortunately, I mean, you and I have discussed this, and I know this is a question, and happy to have further conversations. If there is an appointee, often there's long gaps in the leadership, and because these issues, cyber attacks, are relentless, gaps in leadership make it very difficult to run an effective organization. Since CSER was created, the leader of CSER has been unseated, no leader for exactly half of the time. So we want to make sure that there is consistent, strong, professional leadership, and I want to elevate it to be a directorate and make sure that it has the resources that it needs.
We'll continue to discuss that issue, but the important thing is the emphasis on the significant role. Let me ask another couple of cyber questions. One is, part of nuclear modernization has to be what they call C3, Communications, Command, and Control. That's got to be cyber protected to the nth degree. Do you agree that that's part of the nuclear modernization challenge?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Thank you. The other piece is the cyber protection within your agency. I hope you will be brutal in testing, pen testing, and really working the cyber protection within the agency. The federal government is notorious for being cyber vulnerable. And one of the only ways to protect against that is individual desktop cyber hygiene. So I hope that you will test your employees to be sure that they're not responding to phishing emails, that they're not clicking on attachments that they shouldn't. It seems mundane, but 85 or 90% of cyber attacks could be prevented by just straightforward, simple cyber hygiene at the desktop. So I hope that's something I want you to appoint somebody whose job it is to expose vulnerabilities within the department.
Yes, we have actually appointed a new CIO, and this is exactly what we are focused on.
Final question. Deterrence doesn't work with non-state actors. That's where nonproliferation comes in. And we have to be concerned into the future about non-state actors getting a hold of nuclear materials. And so it's critical that your department works closely with the intelligence community, with the entire nonproliferation governmental structure, because, as I say, our whole strategy rests upon deterrence, but deterrence doesn't work for a half dozen people who are perfectly willing to die to bring a nuclear weapon into New York Harbor. So please commit to me that you're going to remain committed and keep your eye on nonproliferation, because that's got to be part of our strategy.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator King.